Hello, a very good evening to you. Welcome to ITV News Calendar with Ian and Lara.
Yes, good evening. These are tonight's main stories.
Feeling unsafe at home, the pensioner from Leeds who's been waiting over a year for an accessible council house.
I've had quite a few falls with steps.
Does that scare you?
Well, yeah, it upsets me. I just feel as though this house is much too big for me now. I can't cope, love.
A serial rapist who attacked a woman in Sheffield is to be released despite an appeal from the Justice Secretary.
How Yorkshire's Stonehenge of the North has been saved for future generations.
And how long do you dunk your biscuit for? The talented teenager whose ingenious invention has solved this age-old dilemma. So thanks for joining us. First tonight to the pensioner desperate to move out of what her neighbours say is a death trap for her. Barbara White is 88 and has lived in her three-bedroom council house in Leeds for 40 years.
She's been applying for a smaller, more accessible council house for over a year, but she's never been successful. Meanwhile, there are thousands of families hoping to move into bigger properties in the city, as Helen Steele reports.
I'm behind you.
88-year-old Barbara White relies on her neighbours for almost everything. She says just getting to her bathroom or bedroom is putting her life at risk.
I've had quite a few falls with steps.
Does that scare you?
Well, yeah, it upsets me. I just feel as though this house is much too big for me now. I can't cope, love.
She's been in her council house in Leeds for 40 years.
And is it cold up there as well? No
Cold, it's freezing. I've got 9 rooms there and I've got one with heating on.
Barbara has been applying for new, smaller social housing every week for more than a year. But every week she comes up against a brick wall. There simply aren't enough to go around, and she's not in the top priority banding.
I worry that this house is a death trap for her. It's just not safe. So I think she needs to be moved as soon as possible. This house is perfect for a family.
I mean, she's worked all her life and she's done her bit. I mean, so it should be up now to the council to do their bit and look after her.
The council, though, says it's one of many having to manage the growing housing crisis. Figures show that last year there were more than 159,000 households on the waiting list for social housing in Yorkshire. Out of the 370 local authorities analysed across the country, Leeds had the second highest number, more than 26,000 households. Bradford was also in the top 10 with almost 23,000, as was Wakefield with more than 22,000. On average, social housing applicants in Leeds wait more than 2 years, and 5,500 people are identified as in urgent need. In a statement, Leeds City Council said demand is much higher than the available supply of social housing, and as a result, applicants can wait a long time to be rehoused. In specific cases, we look to make direct allocations where a resident is under-occupying to achieve best use of our stock. But there are a number of residents who we are seeking to assist in this way. Barbara says she's loved living in her home and wants a family to be able to enjoy it too.
And what is it that you'd like to have?
I want to get a place where I'm comfortable and warm. I'm hoping it's going to be central heating if I get a flat or a bungalow. That's all I ask for, to be warm.
Something her friends say isn't a lot to ask for. Helen Steele, ITV News in Leeds.
Well, it's certainly an upsetting story, and obviously we hope Barbara gets the help she needs. Helen's with us in the studio now. Is Barbara being supported by anyone at all, Helen?
Yes, she is. Her local MP, Rachel Reeves, got in contact with her today, actually. And she also spoke with us and said that appropriate housing is a fundamental human right and that she thinks that social housing should be invested in everywhere. Now, that's a call echoed by the housing charity Shelter, which also says that Barbara needs to be rehoused urgently.
Local authorities often don't have a suitable homes to put people in, and with an ageing population, they're not building the right types of homes. That's what we desperately need, is more social homes that are suitable to people's needs in the area, and that's with rents tied to local incomes, so there's somewhere safe for people to stay and live.
I suppose the problem, Helen, is Barbara's not alone, is she? She approached you after you featured another family on this programme struggling to get a home.
Yes, last week we featured the Nolan family. Now, they were made homeless after their private landlord sold up. Now, the council did find them somewhere to stay in temporary accommodation, but that family of 5 are still in their one-bedroom B&B 2 weeks on.
And what's the council had to say about this?
Well, obviously this problem is being faced by councils up and down the country, but they did say to me just now that they are going to get in contact with Barbara and are going to rehouse her as a matter of priority.
OK, Helen Steele, thank you very much.
Thank you, that's good to hear, isn't it? Now, a serial rapist, once dubbed Britain's most wanted man, is to be released from jail, despite the Justice Secretary claiming he still poses a risk. 66-year-old Andrew Barlow is serving multiple life sentences after being convicted of 13 rapes in the 1980s. One attack on a young mother in her home in Sheffield was carried out whilst her 3-year-old daughter hid behind a settee. The parole board decided in December that Barlow could be freed. Dominic Raab applied for his release to be cancelled, but that's now been rejected.
The key plank of their decision for releasing Andrew Barlow is that he will be closely monitored by the probation service. Now, several women have been murdered at the hands of violent men over the last year, directly connected to failings in the probation service, and because they simply do not have the resources to monitor violent and dangerous offenders.
The parole board insists the panel had considered all the evidence when it decided that Barlow should be freed.
A student nurse appeared at the Old Bailey this morning, charged over a hospital bomb scare in Leeds. 27-year-old Mohammed Farouk was arrested outside St James's Hospital in the early hours of the 20th of January. He's also accused of planning a terrorist attack at an RAF base in Yorkshire. Following his appearance at the Old Bailey, a trial date has been set for the 16th of October at Sheffield Crown Court.
Now, for people wanting a family who are unable to conceive, it can be a worrying and very stressful time. Some find themselves turning to sperm donors.
In fact, the number of babies conceived using donated sperm has tripled in the last 15 years. But a lack of ethnic diversity among donors at licensed UK clinics means more people are looking abroad or online to match the ethnicity they want.
But experts warn that can cause complications and even be risky. Kevin Ashford reports.
Lou Renner has always wanted to have a child and decided to try to conceive using a sperm donor. But because she wanted the donor to be black, it's a search that's taken 2 years. And she's not alone in finding it hard.
It was just personal preference. Obviously, my father's of mixed origin and myself. So it's just something I wanted. Because I'm part of a group with other black girls, I'm hearing how they're struggling, which might mean that they'll miss the opportunity.
Lou finally found a clinic near her that had sperm available from a black donor. The clinic had imported it from America. The shortage of ethnically diverse donors of both eggs and sperm here is countrywide. This fertility clinic in Leeds says the shortage may force people to look abroad for donors. And safety standards might not be as high as here.
In the UK, all sperm and egg donors are carefully selected, they're appropriately screened and counselled, the recipients are appropriately counselled, we make sure that they are in a good, healthy position to accept fertility treatments. And I think that if you go abroad, particularly to an unregistered sperm bank, then you don't know whether the same regulations are in place.
According to the Human Fertilisation and Embryology Authority, more than 70,000 children have been conceived using donor eggs and sperm over the last 30 years. However, ethnic minorities are underrepresented amongst donors. The HFEA says only 5% of egg donors were Asian, compared to 10% of an age-matched population. And only 2% of sperm donors were black, compared to 4% of the population. Nonnie Martins has written and broadcast about her experience of fertility treatment as a black woman. She says it's a subject that needs to be talked about more to improve the situation.
The chances of somebody accessing treatment, number one, is one issue, but then the chance of somebody going to donate their sperm or egg is a whole nother layer to that. And then we've got also superstitious kind of attitudes towards some of these things, that you're giving your seed, as it were, to a different person that you don't know, and that's not something that's normalised in our community. So there's so many hurdles, I guess, to go through culturally before we can get to a place where there'll be enough for people who want to have children.
The HFEA says it hopes that by discussing the issue, more donors will come forward and improve the chances of people from every background who are trying to have children. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
Well, thanks for being with us for Friday night's calendar with Lara and Ian. And still to come on the programme this evening, the budding engineer from Leeds who's built a perfect biscuit dunking machine.
And it's been about 10 days since we had widespread frost and fog and those chilly nights, but they're likely to return by the second half of the weekend, and I'll have all the detail a little later on.
Thank you, Kerry. Well, it's easy now, isn't it, to take for granted the right to get married. But it's a right which, a decade ago, was still not available to same-sex couples.
The first step in changing that happened almost exactly 10 years ago. On the 5th of February 2013, MPs voted for the first time in favour of allowing same-sex marriages, a landmark moment, the significance of which is still felt today, as James Webster's been finding out.
You are now legally married, so congratulations to you both.
Celebrations for one of the first marriages of a same-sex couple in England.
All of my love, I promise you.
Andrew Whale and Neil Allard exchanged vows not just in front of their family and friends, but TV cameras too.
Yeah, I can't even explain just how many people were around and how, when I was at work, everybody was talking to me about it at work. I mean, it was really bizarre to be at midnight, so everything was slightly otherworldly about it.
If a couple love each other, then the state should not stop them getting married unless there is a good reason. And in this day and age, being gay is not a good reason, if it ever was.
The first step in changing the law to allow their wedding was this vote, almost exactly 10 years ago today.
The ayes to the right, 400. The noes to the left, 175.
Watching that debate with her girlfriend was Alex Mathieson.
We didn't do civil partnership because we didn't want what we had to be seen and recognised as lesser. We're just normal married people living normal married, somewhat boring at times lives. You know, we're just doing what normal couples do. And it's the fact that it's just so regular that's impactful almost. It was massive, it was huge, it was exciting, it was a big deal. And now it's just like standard.
In Yorkshire and northern Lincolnshire, well over 3,000 same-sex couples have now got married, around 600 each year. Deborah Page from Pudsey in West Yorkshire regularly officiates at ceremonies.
It does feel a little bit special, and you do, I certainly take a little bit of a breath and just a moment to have a look around everybody and just appreciate the privilege of being the person that's able to stand with them and give them that moment.
Alex now works for the LGBT Foundation, a charity which offers support and information. For them, this anniversary coming in LGBT History Month is an important one to mark.
I think we do have to be careful. You know, you see what happens in America, that actually rights that have been enshrined for years can be threatened and in some cases taken away. So I think we need to always be very, very watchful.
And one place where the campaigning goes on is within the Church of England, where next week its governing body is expected to vote in favour of blessings of same-sex relationships in church, but not marriages. James Webster, ITV News.
Now the ITV Evening News continues at 6:30 here on ITV1. Here's a look at what's happening with Charlene White.
Coming up, the very latest on Nicola Bulley. The mother of two disappeared 1 week ago today. Tonight, the tough milestone and the impact on her family and friends. Also ahead, guilty of treason, the man caught at the castle with a crossbow, saying he wanted to kill the Queen. And up for auction, the previously unseen and deeply personal letters written by Princess Diana. Join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
Charlene, thank you, we will. Well, it's time for some sport now, and Sheffield Wednesday are hoping to go to the top of League One this weekend, but it won't be easy as they take on leaders Plymouth tomorrow.
The Owls currently boast the longest unbeaten run in the country. They were last defeated in October, 21 games ago.
It's not bad going, is it? Well, the man behind the success so far this season is head coach Darren Moore. Arif Ahmed has been speaking to him this afternoon and started by asking him about his thoughts ahead of that big game.
I suppose it is a big game because of the position that we're in. But, you know, for the chance to be in the position that we're in and competing for those top 2 spots, it shows credit to everybody connected at the football club.
You've had some big results at Hillsborough this season, notably Newcastle in the FA Cup. With beating Plymouth and being able to go top, would that top that?
I suppose there's a magnitude of the game because first against second and the consistency of both teams. But certainly for myself and the group of players, it's the next opponents that we got, and we know that we've got to be really, really good if we're to get anything from the game.
Since you've come in, you've really reconnected the fans and the football club. You know, things that you do like clapping along to Hi Ho Silver Lining. Fans really love that. What made you start doing that?
Yeah, for me, I remember when I first arrived and I came out and then I heard it at the start because usually I come out just before kickoff, and it really got me going. And I just thought, this is brilliant. This is like, you know, and from then I've always done it every game. It's almost like I get out 3 or 4 minutes before because I wait for it to come on, and I'm part of the supporters, I'm part of the club. Yes, I've got the title as a manager, but we're all together.
You're 21 games unbeaten. Some fans still aren't quite happy with what's going on in the pitch. You can't please everyone, can you?
Sometimes, you know, as a manager or a coach, you almost feel like a politician or a referee, that no matter what decision you make, you're never going to make everybody happy. But what you try and do is hopefully they all see that we're trying to do the right things on a consistent basis, and eventually, hopefully, we'll all get on the same page.
What drives Darren Moore every day?
For me, what drives me is the people. Is giving the people of Sheffield hope, fulfilment, enjoyment. I think that's what drives me really in terms of gaining this wonderful football club and trying to help put it back where it should be really, and getting a community that's connected back with its football club, that connectivity. So I think for that, for me, is a driver. So each and every single day I'm driven by that. But the sky's the limit for this football club, so we've still got a lot of work to do.
Well, that's not the only big game in South Yorkshire. Sheffield United go to Rotherham tomorrow lunchtime. The Blades, who are second in the Championship, will be looking to avenge the defeat Rotherham inflicted on them earlier in the season. The Millers, on the other hand, will want to do the double on United for the first time since the 80s. Both managers say they're looking forward to the game.
We want to win the game. It's a derby. Be a good atmosphere. We'll take our away following and get behind the goal at that end. It's one of their biggest games of the season. We know that. It's a good one, real good one. It's going to be a good one to be involved in.
It's going to be a wrestle. It's going to be physical. It's going to be crash, bang, wallop. Everything you'd expect from a derby of this ilk. And probably one where you put form to one side. If you're a player, you want to be in it, and if you're a supporter, you want to be at it. I've probably got the best view in the house, being close to the touchline. One of the few games you'd like to get your boots back on for.
And it's congratulations to 16-year-old Stan Moody from Halifax, who has booked his place on the World Snooker Tour. Last night, Stan beat fellow Yorkshire teenager Liam Pullen in the final of the WSF Junior Championship in Sydney. He'll now play alongside the likes of Ronnie O'Sullivan and Judd Trump for the next 2 years.
Yeah, congratulations, Stan.
Certainly. Now, a group of ancient monuments, huge earth mounds known as henges, have opened to the public in North Yorkshire. Thornborough Henges near Beedale are older than the pyramids in Egypt and are being called the Stonehenge of the North.
Yes, they've been gifted to the nation and will be looked after by English Heritage. The 5,000-year-old structures, I'm surprised they've lasted that long, they form a mile-long complex in the county. Julia Breen reports.
These enormous henges were carved out of the Yorkshire landscape with hand tools by Neolithic man, but they've lain in near obscurity for millennia. Now this site, as archaeologically important as Stonehenge, belongs to the nation.
So the group of 3 monuments here are really important. They're kind of the best collection of henges that we have, but they're also part of a much bigger landscape that stretches from Catterick down to Ferry Bridge in West Yorkshire, which has the biggest concentration of prehistoric monuments and the biggest concentration in the whole of the British Isles. So it's kind of really significant for 2 reasons. For the 3 henges here, which are kind of really unusual, and then being part of this much bigger ritual landscape.
Despite their age and significance, 2 of the henges at this site were classed as being at risk. That was after extensive damage over the years by farming and a large population of rabbits. They've now been gifted to the nation by quarrying company Tarmac, which owned the land. These banks of earth once stood 5 metres high and were covered in a glittering white stone. They would have been seen for miles and miles around. But it's from the air that the true scale of these magnificent monuments can really be appreciated. And from today, the public can visit the southern 2 henges for the first time and find out more about this underappreciated site.
It hasn't had the attention, really, that some of these other sites have had. And so, yes, it's on people's doorstep, and yet, even regionally, people don't know that this amazing site exists.
Today's opening means these ancient ritual areas will be lifted out of obscurity and preserved for future generations. Julia Breen, ITV News, Thornborough Henge.
It is amazing, and she's absolutely right. It's only really from the air that you can appreciate how magnificent they are.
It's great, though, that people will actually be able to go and see, though, isn't it?
I fancy going
after
myself,
all this
do you?
time. I certainly do, but only if the weather's right and Kerry comes with us.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can weather a storm like that. That was pretty impressive, wasn't it?
Or put up with us.
Oh, of course, always. I mean, at least it was less stormy, I suppose, today, less windy across the region. So some of you were getting out and about. This was Trish Morris's view. You can just about see her shadow there, a winter shadow. Definitely thicker cloud across most parts of the region, but evidence of a little bit of sunshine. And of course, Maggie got in the shot as well. A big thank you, Trish, for sharing. Not only was it a little bit brighter to eastern parts across the region today, it was also quite warm. Ravensworth in North Yorkshire was our hotspot, just short of 14 Celsius. And if you think that the average was about 8 this time of year, then we were around 5 or 6 Celsius higher than what we'd expect for the time of year. But there is a change as we head into the weekend. We've got a cold front replacing our milder, cloudier and breezier conditions, and it's working in around 7 or 8 o'clock tomorrow, and it will bring colder and clearer conditions with lighter winds as we head into Sunday. And it's behind that system that high pressure rebuilds for Sunday and into next week. So a lot of calm weather, a lot of light winds, and yes, we are expecting a little bit more in the way of sunshine. And actually, that area of high pressure could be a record breaker in terms of atmospheric pressure. So on Sunday, we're expecting 1,048 hectopascals or millibars in old money. On February record is 1,049. What does it mean for us? Not much, other than that it's going to be calm. But if you do have an old school barometer on Sunday, and I would advise to do it on Sunday, if you give it a little tap, it will swing all the way to very fair. So
oh, right, all the way round.
Yeah, all the way round, as pretty much as far as it can go. It's quite high for this time of year for sure.
Don't know if I've got one actually. I might have one hidden away somewhere.
You probably.
I don't, but my dad does. So Dad, do a bit of tapping on Sunday.
All right then, thanks.
It's
Kerry.
looked really spring-like though, hasn't it, across the region?
Yes.
Yeah, starting to see snowdrops and
yeah, Yorkshire Arboretum in Castle Howard opened for the new season on 1st of February, so it's just been open a couple of days and they've already got snowdrops and blossom there, so keep it coming. Keep it coming. Weather photos at itv.com.
Yeah, I did see some daffodils the other day.
Oh, I love it.
I know.
We're getting there, aren't we? Yeah.
Now, there can be many annoyances in modern day life, but surely near the top of the list, in a first world problem kind of way, is when you dunk your biscuit in a cup of tea and, well, it plops into the bottom of the cup.
Well, it's a problem that one talented teenager has just won a top scientific prize for trying to solve this age-old problem. So we sent Martin Fisher to meet him with a packet of biscuits.
Now, there are some great mysteries in life. Are we alone in the universe? Who built Stonehenge? And of course, how long should you dunk your biscuit in your tea?
It's a problem that got 14-year-old George thinking when it was posed by his science teacher. So he decided to build a machine to investigate.
I was trying to figure out how long each biscuit took to dunk, and so I built the contraption to be able to get the perfect timings for each biscuit.
And this is it. Constructed from Lego and with a computer brain, it delivers precise dunking action, so the relative strength of biscuits can be measured.
This is depth, this is the amount of time, and that's the amount of dunks. So
that's great. It's hypnotic, isn't it?
Yeah.
So is this set for a ginger nut now or a softer biscuit, do you think?
I would say probably a ginger nut.
Ginger nut for this one, right.
This has got quite a lot of dunking time on it.
You need a lot of dunking time for a ginger nut.
Yeah.
George has autism and attends Lighthouse School in Leeds. His invention was entered in the British Science Association's Crest Awards, up against schools from across the country, and it came out on top.
Science is very black and white and has some definite answers, which really helps. And has a good source of imagination. You can be as creative as you want to be in science.
He's yet to complete tests on all biscuits, but so far the ginger nut looks to be the top dunker.
So George, you've solved the dunking question. What's your next project?
I'm making a retro games console.
Do you need biscuits for that?
No.
Oh, that's good news.
George, a teenager then, who not only takes a biscuit, but knows how long to dunk it as well. Martin Fisher, ITV News in Leeds.
I do like the way that he's going to have to work his way through all different brands of biscuits.
I know, I just thought it was a shame that he wasn't called Duncan. Don't you?
Dip your biscuit.
Yeah. Now, one problem with this.
What?
There's nothing in it.
Don't give the game away. Kerry's here with the weather.
Good visibility on the horizon. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello again. So the weekend is almost upon us. A bit disappointing to end the working week today. Lots of cloud around, a few breaks the further east you are, and very cloudy, misty, murky and damp the further west, especially over Pennine areas today. We stay fairly cloudy for most parts of the region tomorrow, but it does become settled from Sunday. So a lot of dry weather by day, but under the clearest skies with temperatures near normal or just below. Some frosty nights returning from Saturday night really onwards. So this has been the case so far today. You can see that thinning of the cloud to eastern parts during the afternoon, but still quite a lot of cloud around, still the risk of some dampness and low cloud over the hills as we head through tonight. It's mostly dry, the winds are becoming quite light into the early hours, and we're still quite mild. These are the temperatures that we'd expect for the time of year by day, around 7 or 8 Celsius. Very sometimes as we head into the weekend. Saturday morning rising at 7:48, setting later at 4:53. So tomorrow for Saturday, not too disappointing for getting out and about. It will be mostly dry, but disappointing in terms of cloud amounts perhaps, especially the further west you are, maybe even some dampness over the hills. But there will be some breaks, some bright spells coming through. Temperatures still into double figures, 10 Celsius, and still quite breezy, nothing too strong, but definitely a noticeable breeze from the southwest. But then we look to the north, we've got a weather front coming down. That comes through Saturday evening before easing off, and then it's behind that we see cold frosty start in rural spots, certainly as we head into Sunday, but plenty of sunshine and lighter winds. As we head into the next couple of days, light winds, temperatures near normal or just below with some frosty nights, but it's mostly dry and definitely a little bit more in the way of sunshine around.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
So there you go, nothing spoiling things too much this weekend.
Oh, that's good to hear, thank you. I've got biscuit crumbs all over my scripts now.
Yeah, well, it's certainly not mine because I've still got my biscuit. It's tea time. That's it. Have a lovely weekend,
Oh,
won't you?
do. Thank
Bye
you.
for now.
Bye. Bye-bye.